I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth.
Boom.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the most haunted city on earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And today we are back with another Ghost Mail.
Ghost Mail.
You've got Ghost Mail.
Oh yeah, we just finished up a live Q&A with the Parajunkies.
Yes, we did.
It was super fun. We're going to start doing those more often, and we're going to do some live Estes method more often because that was honestly really successful. So it was really great. Speaking of Parajunkies, let me go ahead and thank a few new ones who decided to join the Parajunkie family. We have Dakota Smith, Thomas Putnam, Kayla Shrink, Alicia Richardson, Rhonda King, Josh Collins, and Jade Amella. Thank y'all so much for joining the Parajunkie family, and we're really excited to have you, and we're so excited to see the Parajunkies growing like it is. You know, our Patreon is just killing it, and we have more and more people joining the live streams because we live stream almost every week, all of these episodes. So yeah, it's really cool. Maddie, let's go ahead and do you have anything you want to say?
Actually I do. So I just started selling spell jar jewelry online. Yes, you do not have to be in Savannah anymore to buy my jewelry. So I make these pieces by myself, by my own hands, and I curate all of the herbs specifically to bring different metaphysical properties to the wearer. So I've got like self-love, abundance, anti-anxiety, protection, all the good things. So if you like things like that, you can check it out at countrywitchco.com.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
And follow me on Instagram, too.
Brought to you by countrywitch.com.
Oh, yeah. Cool. All right. And here we go. We got our first ghost mail from Hannah Cornelison.
Awesome.
Yep. It is titled West Texas Weirds.
Wow. The Weird Texans.
Weird Texans.
West Texas.
Yep. All right. Hello. My name is Hannah, and I've been a fan since the beginning of the podcast. Thanks for sticking with us, Hannah.
Nice,
We appreciate that. I've been a long-time believer of the paranormal, but never really had any experiences. When I was little, my older sister explained to me that there is a veil between our world and the paranormal, and we can choose to keep it strong or weaken it and start to see/talk to spirits. No, thank you. All right. Huh?
Fair,
yeah. I've always been aware about the paranormal, but have kept myself pretty closed off to it because it scares the crap out of me. Recently, my husband and I took a job out in West Texas. We are outside of Pecos and close to the Chihuahua Desert. That's a desert I want to go to. How many?
Does it all have a bunch of little chihuahuas just scrumping around?
That would be great.
That would be great.
Yeah, we need to make that happen.
Yeah, just a desert of little angry gremlins.
Shaky dogs.
Shaky dogs,
yes. At 50,000 Parajunkies, we will make a Chihuahua rescue desert.
And only chihuahuas.
All right. We are contracted security guards, so we will fill all sorts of weird jobs. Our current job are security guards for a natural gas refinery that is currently shut down. I bet that's going to be creepy, a shutdown factory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Max and I trade off 12-hour shifts. Basically, we sit and watch cameras, check building temperatures, and make rounds around the facility every 2 hours. Oh, yeah. It's going to be good. Since I am alone and need to fill my day, I have been binging on all your podcasts and paranormal videos, movies, etc. That I have fallen behind on. After a week of being alone and doing nothing but watch people talk about paranormal stuff, I had my first weird thing happen to me. Congratulations. That's how it works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seems to be how it works. Yeah. Two Girls, One Ghost called themselves the most haunted podcast in
Right.
America.
Because listening to it, yeah.
They've had a bunch of fans say like, now things are happening to me ever since I started listening to your podcast. Check them out, by the way. We did a collaboration with them. If you're new here, they're great. Awesome. All right. And where was I? After about a week of being alone and doing nothing but watch people talk about paranormal stuff, I had my first weird thing happen to me. It was daytime, and I was walking alone on one of my rounds. Suddenly, I heard what sounded like a man screaming out. It was not a scream of pain, but the scream someone might make if they were incredibly angry.
Sure.
Oh, boy. I barely had time to think about this as my dad called me almost immediately after the scream. I hurried off to a different part of the facility, finished the conversation with my dad, and tried to brush off this experience. Once I was back in the building alone, I started to get more and more creeped out. I know I heard it, but there is literally nothing coming from that direction I heard the scream from. The facility work at I surrounded by the desert. I don't know what she means by that. The closest thing to us. Oh, the facility I work at, surrounded by the desert. The closest thing to us is an RV park 4 miles away. Since working there has been 1 or 2 times that I felt like someone was watching me from afar, and I quickly put those things aside as I have to walk around alone a lot. There was also once I had the specific feeling that someone was listening to me. I have a tendency to talk out loud to myself pretty much all day, and when I walk around in public, I start to talk as if I see someone because I don't want them to think I'm crazy. Well, that kind of happened here at work. I was talking to myself and had the sudden feeling that someone was around and I should lower my voice. Super weird, but of course, I am the only one who has experienced anything weird. I don't know anything about the area or any lore about the Chihuahua Desert or West Texas, and frankly, I'm not going to do much research while I'm out here alone, but it sure seems like a haunted ass place. I just wanted to know if I'm just freaking myself out since I'm alone 12 hours a day, or if there's something creepy I should be aware of. Hope this was enough info. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you, Hannah. And she also sent an edit. So next email, edit. Didn't know if I wanted to add this because I don't want to freak myself out too much, but I thought y'all would be interested. So we also have cameras around the facility that I watch from my desk. They have this motion sensor thing that makes the icon of a person pop up when there's motion in front of the cameras. Here's the weird thing. It's almost always windy here in the desert. Only one camera ever really registers the wind and has the person icon up all the time. It is also some of 2 cameras that I think she meant one. It is also one of 2 cameras that can see the flags, which obviously move all the time. But for some reason, the other camera with the flags doesn't have the icon, even though the cameras see the movement. Also, all the other cameras are in view of grass and some other foliage that you can visibly see move, but the person icon still doesn't show up. Except every once in a while, the person icon will pop up on different cameras, seem to move from camera to camera as if it was making a circle around the yard. Really weird, but everyone says I'm crazy, it's just the wind. But I'm confused as to why they never seem to register the wind most of the time. Y'all know more about cameras, so maybe you'll have some better insight. I hope I explained this well enough, LOL, and I also hope I'm just freaking myself out and not surrounded by ghosts. Hannah, there's something behind you. Turn around.
You're awful.
That's just mean.
You're awful.
That's just mean.
You know, it's I don't know much about the Chihuahua Desert, but you know, deserts are haunted in their own regard because I think we've mentioned this before that they are hearty ghosts if they are able to survive out there. I think maybe doing a little research on like, what has been in that area before. Because if something's walking in circles around a yard area, I don't know why, but the thought of like a
Prisoner, yeah.
popped into my head, where I was like, maybe there was a prison at some point on that land, or kind of like a makeshift prison of some sort. Because, there have been so many like moments in history where people would probably have a reason to make a makeshift holding facility for prisoners or outlaws, things like that. But
well, yeah, and the government hasn't had a great history of dealing with indigenous people, and so there is a good chance that there was a type of rounding up and pinning people at some point in order to make way for the, manifest destiny, as it were, which is also why a lot of deserts are haunted, is because as humans press in and build cities and build things, those naturalistic spirits have to go somewhere, and they end up in the places where people don't live. And so the desert is full of spirits that just don't want to be around people. They just don't want to be anywhere, associated with people. And so that's a big buildup of energies, and resentful energies at that, right on the edge. And if you're the only outpost, this one singular thing on the horizon, that could make that place a target for any ill will that a spirit might have. Although the angry shouting of a spirit
weird.
kind of stands out in my mind, which makes me wonder. I've encountered the story of a man screaming very angrily in connection with a man shooting himself. And this has been multiple stories of people saying that before someone shoots themselves, they oftentimes will just scream very, very loud before pulling the trigger, just sort of this psyching themselves up, or a release of tension or emotion or something. So the moment you said that, I wondered if it wasn't somebody like right at the brink of taking their own life, letting that primal rage scream out to sort of commit to the action. So yeah, there might be something to investigate there as to whether or not there was tragedy at the plant itself, before it shut down. Also, if you have electricity running in a plant in the middle of the desert, that's just a big beacon for anything nearby to come and want to check it out.
It's interesting that you say that after you started like listening to paranormal stuff that you started noticing different things. Well, I think there's a reason why people who listen to Two Girls, One Ghost, and sometimes even our podcast, start having paranormal experiences, because you're now opening yourself up.
Absolutely.
To acknowledging the existence of these things. And I feel like people start to have their first experience because before that you might have had doubts of the paranormal, or you just could have been very closed off in general, but now that you're hearing all these other people's experiences and things like that, it naturally opens your mind up to things, kind of taking away some of that armor that closes us off to experiencing anything paranormal.
And people are looking for it now.
Yeah, it's true.
like we'll mention the Hat Man, and then they'll be like falling asleep, and then they'll like open their eye and be like, is it there?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening?
It's
for
true.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it's I mean, it's never out of the question that you might just be psyching yourself out a little bit, because people hear things all the time when they're nervous to be in a place that they're by themselves and you're far away from a lot of other people. So of course that can give people anxiety, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility, considering where you are, that it is something paranormal as well. So
absolutely,
for sure.
Hey y'all, this is Madison. We'll get back into the episode in less than 20 seconds, but I'm really excited to announce that I have opened my own spell jar jewelry company. It's called Country Witch Co., and I custom curate each piece with different herbs that attract metaphysical properties to the wearer. So whether that be self-love, abundance, anti-anxiety, I've got a little bit of something for everyone. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can find us at www.countrywitchco.com, and enjoy the episode and stay spooky, y'all.
Let's move on to the next one. This one comes from one of the OG Parajunkies, Ultra Parajunkie, Nicole Kingbird.
Nice.
Ew, ew, ew. I feel like Guy Fieri announcing people. Anyway. All right. Anyway. All right. 3-part ghost story or 3 strange stories is what it's called.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Part 1. When I was little, probably 3 or 4, I had night terrors almost every night. I don't remember this, but my parents tell me I would wake up screaming almost every night. When I was a little older, probably 6 or 7, I had a reoccurring nightmare that I remember vividly. A very pale-skinned girl with long dark hair and an expressionless face would crawl out of sewers, toilets, and sinks. I would wake up before she could do anything to me, but I knew she intended to harm me.
It's like The Grudge.
Yeah, big yikes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, the Japanese have a toilet ghost.
The Juan. All right, part 2. In high school, a friend invited me to go with her to a movie. I had never heard of the movie or seen any trailers, and I didn't know what it was about, but it was called The
Ring.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
The Ring. I swear the girl from The Ring was the girl from my nightmares. They looked identical, and they were both from the sewer. I was so freaked out, and I'm even uncomfortable just writing about it now. I even made my husband throw away his DVD copy of The Ring before we moved in together because I couldn't have it in my home. It is available on a streaming service. I will unsubscribe until it's gone. Oh, wow.
That's dedication.
Yes.
Part 3. When I was in my 20s, I was hanging out with some friends at my house, and we were taking pictures of each other. The next morning, when we were going through the photos, we noticed a girl with no expression on her face and long dark hair in one of my photos. Oh boy. Okay. Photo is attached. All right.
Okay.
Oh yeah. She's bringing the heat. All right. Again, I was so freaked out. Medicine man came and smudged my home to clear out any spirits. The medicine man told me that he was able to clear out some spirits, but the girl was part of me, so he couldn't remove her. He told me that spirits must listen to us, so if I tell her she can't show herself anymore, she will let me be. I took his advice, and now I'm in my mid-30s and haven't had any other sign from her since then. But I know she's still there. I can't explain how or why I know. I just do. So what does this all mean? Are the 3 parts related? Make it make sense. And here is the photo. You'll see it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope.
Nope. Oh my God.
Nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it. I wonder if there's a way. Let me have the phone back, and I'm gonna post this, y'all. I'm gonna post this to Patreon real fast so they can, so the Parajunkies can see it. But y'all go ahead and discuss. We are back.
Oh, that's well. They're all 3 are very certainly connected.
Absolutely.
Well, Samara had to come from somewhere.
Oh yeah, there's a long tradition of this specific ghost. As a matter of fact, I want to say that we've touched upon this before.
Okiku?
And even in elements throughout the United States, throughout the world, the long, dark-haired, pale child, ghost is rampant. And the fact that you had knowledge of it prior to because I think that you're now predating even the Japanese version of the
Right.
Ringu with your nightmares and with your dreams. The night terrors, constantly a sign of supernatural turmoil. Lots of times they are precursors to more developed issues. Oftentimes demonic possessions start in night terrors, especially with such a specific story of such a specific thing, coming up out of the sewers, coming up out of the toilets, the discarded and wasteful parts of our existence. That is where dwells the darker entities. So yeah, I would not suggest that you are linking unrelated things, because they seem very tangible to
Right.
link to. You can say, oh, well, that is the way it goes. The idea of it being connected to you, this will always be a tricky thing. There are a lot of spirits that may be connected to you at any given time in your life, and the earlier or younger you are, when the attachment happens, the more complex the relationship is. And depending on how you believe, some connections can happen before birth. Some connections are about spirits that have, and will always be entangled with you, and what their purpose is and what they want it's pretty wide. So I would not suggest that knowing that it's always there is necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily like, oh no, what am I going to do? But it does hearken to the fact that this entity is attached. It is a part of your development, your spiritual development, your life, and sometimes that's what spirits are. They are in our lives to help us face something, function in a certain way, understand the world in a certain way. So don't despair is, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because you saying that like this has been around since you were a child tells me that you either picked it up very early on in life, or like Chris said, it's something that's always been with you. But it's hard because what kind of gives me a little pause is the fact that the person you had come in to cleanse spirits out said that they can't detach you from the spirit. Right. So it makes me wonder, I'm like, well, is it a negative attachment, like something that's supposed to, kind of constantly drag you down a little bit?
Sure.
And that's why the attachment is so difficult to get rid of. But then there's the flip side where you basically told it like you can't show yourself anymore, and it respected that. And that's what's also confusing, solely because of the fact that, clearly it's not powerful enough and it doesn't have enough free will to make decisions without your consent. Right. So it's creepy.
It's creepy.
Nonetheless.
It's definitely a tricky thing. My sister had a brain tumor, and when they removed the brain tumor, it turned out to be it was like a dermal cyst, but it was all the material of a twin. I think it had like a fingernail and some hair, and just like it was definitely the organic. But the supposition was that my sister may have been at one point twins, and then one just absorbed the other. And apparently that's a perfectly normal thing, but the cell package remained and grew in her brain. All my sister's life prior to the extraction of the tumor, she was a very gifted psychic. She just knew things. And a gifted mathematician too. She just knew the answers. She just knew these things. After the surgery, they all went away. She no longer had access to these gifts. They just gone. Which was always this interesting thing. It's like, was there something physical inside of her that was causing her to have a pronounced psychic ability, And maybe there is something physical in you, something you absorbed as a child, something that, may have been something that you carry, physically, that as long as it's inside you, so will this spirit be.
Another thing that makes me wonder is if it's almost in the realm of doppelgangers.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That
It's
was
like,
another thing. Yeah.
yeah.
If you first saw it when you were around the same age as it, then, you might be dealing with some kind of doppelganger-like experience.
Because, with the whole doppelganger thing, wanting to get out and whatnot, it makes sense that it would sometimes want to manifest itself showing like that it lives in the sewers or in the place where people don't want it.
Right.
Like it's a discarded entity of sorts. So it makes me wonder if it might be something like that. I'm going to rack my brain for this for a while because it's hard to give you an exact answer right off the cuff.
No,
just because that's
very
a
difficult.
very complex story. But I might do some reading into things too of who the first person was to maybe encounter a Samara type entity.
Well, and I dare say you're gonna go back a long ways, because there's I think a samurai story that has very similar tones and things about the scary child ghost. I think that if you go far enough back, you're going to find that the creepy girl ghost is a pretty solid, entity.
Absolutely. Complex story, but very freaky. So,
keep us posted.
Yes, keep us posted.
Because now you brought it up and brought it out.
Yes.
So may hear from her soon.
All right. This one's from Jesselyn Johnson. She said, not a question or ghost story, but y'all got a shout out. She said, hey, y'all, not sure how many of your listeners are familiar with or listen to the Let's Not Meet podcast or Odd Trails, but y'all got a shout out on all Odd Trails in episode number 68, thanks to the Instagram clip of Chris talking about doppelgangers. Woo! Anyways, just wanted to let y'all know, just in case no one else does, love the podcast, and y'all keep up the great work, Jesselyn, or Jesse for short.
Oh,
yes,
great.
thank you, Jesselyn.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
I got this a couple days ago, and I actually told Jesse that I would reach out to them, which I did. And then they hit back, and we are going to do a collaboration with them.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
Yeah, this is the first they're hearing about it. So
That's great.
Yeah, I figured I'd just save it for the Ghostmail.
Right.
But yes, we are going to be doing that, and they are pretty cool people.
Awesome.
Cool.
Oh yeah. All right, here we go. All right, this one's called Night Terrors, and it is Emily Batris.
It does come
sends
around,
it in.
doesn't it?
I know.
Another Night Terrors.
Oh yeah.
It's like every time we do a ghost mail, it's like
They're
all Hat
loosely
Man,
connected,
all,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
all night terrors or whatever. Interesting.
All right. Emily says, hey guys, I have some questions that maybe you can answer for me. I have done my fair share of research in the paranormal world since I was about 10 years old. I have always been sensitive to different energies when I walk into rooms. That being said, since I was about 6 years old, I've always had, what in the world was that? Did you hear that?
That was my phone.
Okay. Reading
Sorry.
scary stories makes you freaked out. All
Sorry,
right.
I'm wearing like 2000
Yes.
style platform shoes,
Yes.
so they kind of squeak like that.
All right. I've always been sensitive to different energies when I walk into rooms. That being said, I was about 6 years old. Since I was about 6 years old, I have always had night terrors. I'm 22 years old today. My night terrors have always felt real and to the point where I feel like I'm in another realm. There has never been a night to where I was able to sleep normal. Is that a meaning of anything of the fact that I consistently get night terrors? But the main one I'm concerned about is that 2 months ago, I dreamed of myself, my fiance, and one of my best friends sitting in a room with a baby. I remember feeling trapped in the room like someone was keeping us hostage. I always remember feeling as if I'm possessed because I was seeing hallucinations in my dream. all of a sudden, I was feeling uneasy as if something was trying to come out of me. Whatever was in me came out and went into the baby. I remember saying, "What's going on? Stay away." And the baby forming its face to almost what looked like the scream painting and saying to me, "You will see," and zapped me on the side of my stomach. I woke up to feeling a tingling sensation on the same side I was zapped in my dream. Please respond back on your opinions on this. Emily Botches. Goodness gracious.
Ooh, wow.
So a part of me feels like a combination of night terrors, but also lucid dreaming. And also dreams have a long tracked history of representing different things, of your brain kind of working things out, and sometimes it comes through in a very weird way. I've had dreams where I was possessed by something, and what I've found is a lot of times that is an entity trying to give you a message whenever I had those types of dreams. And sometimes it is not a nice entity that is trying to give you that message. I don't know if what your status is, but are you pregnant? Is
that was my
question.
first. Have you had a pregnancy scare?
Yeah, is because that's what immediately popped in my head when you felt the tingle in your stomach and like having the dream with the baby in it. It makes me wonder if an entity is threatening you because of that. Because a lot of times when you are in the process of growing life, you are extra psychically aware of things and you have extra perceived senses because of all of the things that are going on in your body. So, interesting. It's an interesting story, and it's weird that you felt the entity come out of you into a baby. That's what really is.
That does kind of suggest that, lineage.
Yeah.
A dream of lineage. And there are people who believe that dreams are where we have access to other planes of awareness and other planes of existence. It's the cushion area between the living and the dead, or the living and the other dimensional entities or other dimensional realities out there. And it's possible that somewhere early in your life or all along, your dream door, when you go to sleep and you walk through that door into the dreams, it just happens to open up into a particularly scary dimension, a particularly scary alternate place that your subconscious then has to deal with, creating all this anxiety and all this pressure and all this fear and all these things. So night terrors do oftentimes coincide and go hand in hand with paranormal interference in your life. But that specific dream definitely seemed to portend something specific. Mm-hmm. And I immediately thought pregnancy as well, holding a baby, and baby speaking to you. That's actually not an abnormal dream. And depending on what your belief structure is, some people do believe that there's an in-between time before you come into this world, and that spirit that will become your child is capable of interacting with you and speaking with you, and there could be that kind of interaction and that kind of conversation going on. But yeah, it's very loaded, all these incidences that you lined up, and I can see where it would be very disturbing.
Absolutely.
To wonder if this was something terrible, or if it was a manifestation of anxieties, or if it was because sometimes especially when we see like friends and family members in a dream, we start to be really aware that, am I seeing something that's coming to pass? Am I seeing an interpretation of what's happening now? Is this am I being held hostage in my life? Am I being, pinned down in some way that I consciously don't want to face, but my subconscious is saying, oh, by the way, this is a bad situation. You need to get out of it. So, whether we're dealing with, fringe psychology or parapsychology, it's worth musing about, worth really thinking about, what these things, how you feel about them, what they seem to be indicating to you.
Yeah. I am not an expert on dream divination, I guess. It's in the way of examining dreams and examining, parts of it and what those specific parts are mean. So I would recommend getting a book on dreams and things like that. There's plenty of them out there that'll literally break down every single thing that you could possibly think of.
I would imagine that there are online resources too, as well. So you can that's a rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, I would say start there first off. And see if that can kind of help make sense of certain things. Because I don't know your exact life.
Right. That does limit us in what we can
examine, of like how that might be manifesting in dreams. But, like dream, I guess, like, I'm trying to think of what the word would be. Like, not necessarily divination, but like dream... Interpretation. That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would get something on that specifically and see if that kind of helps, because sometimes our brains do weird things. Like in some of the most common ones for dream interpretation are things like your teeth falling out and
which can mean either you're worried about money or you got to go to the dentist,
right?
It's
and sometimes our brains just show very horrifying things, and it takes something outside of us to acknowledge that. Right. It might not just be something super scary,
right? So. Which also might address your night terrors too, because your brain might have a long message for you, and if you do research, because if you do research like in the paranormal fields with night terrors, you're going to end up with a demon.
Right.
But if you do a lot of investigation in like psychology or dream interpretation, you might find that there are parallels to the kinds of threats and feelings and sensations that you get in your dreams that are occurring to you in your life.
All right. Thank you for that story. And we are moving on to the next one. Ryan Stotler wrote us again. Gotta love him. Gotta love her stories. All right. Don't ignore her is what it's called.
Oof.
Hey, y'all. I'm back. LOL. This will be a short one, but I had to share it because it was just funny. A week or so ago, I was sitting at my table with my nephew eating dinner and listening to the podcast, and my mom and nephew just chatting away. So I put my headphones in so I could hear what y'all were saying. I had the volume all the way up, and I feel 3 taps on my side like someone was trying to get my attention. So I pulled my headphones out of my ears. I asked my nephew if he tapped me, and he said no. So I asked my mom if she was talking to me and her, and my nephew said yes, she was. I told them something tapped me. I think it was my friendly neighborhood ghost saying, "Hey, idiot, your mom's talking to you, so don't ignore her, haha." Thanks, y'all, for reading my stories, and I'll be back next week. Stay spooky, y'all.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That is funny. I mean, that is totally the case a lot of times. Sometimes spirits are just witnessing things and they're like, hello.
Yeah, if they can interact, they will.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've talked about that before, where I've had spirits on multiple occasions where I'm like, Maggie Hunter actually is a great example of this, where the interaction was solely because I was doing something stupid, or I was forgetful or whatever. And Maggie Hunter died at the Gribble House property, which is now a trolley car barn. And basically every single time I'd forget my water bottle or my jacket because I put things down and then I forget to grab them at the end of the night.
Oh yeah, you told us one before.
Yeah. And I would go to put in the code and lock up, and it wouldn't work until I would hear a little voice in my head being like, you forgot your water bottle. And so I'd be like, oh, I forgot my water bottle. Go grab it. And now the code works. She was very commonly doing things like that. So it's very likely that that's exactly the kind of same situation where they're just witnessing the situation happen and they're like, hello, quit being rude,
Right.
Cool. All right. And this is the last one. This is Justine Mason.
All right.
I don't think Justine has ever written to us before. All right. Seance in your grandparents' basement.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys. I just discovered you from TikTok. And let me just say the amount of work you guys put into your podcast does not go unnoticed. I love it. Thank you, Justine.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, seriously. We really appreciate that. Here's the story. At a Christmas party when I was younger, my cousins and I decided, hey, let's go to talk to the dead.
Oh, yeah. Hey.
Like you do.
What party, doesn't talk to the dead?
Absolutely. Boy, was I naive. I've also had this part of me where I can see and feel things others can't. What bad could happen? As we set up the room, candles lit, rosaries in hand, and flashlights within reach. Just in case you know, my cousin, or just in case you don't know, my cousin Creighton gave the rules and began calling those on the other side. After 5 minutes, I looked up and I could see a little girl with long black hair. She had really small, yeah.
Samara's just here.
I know, right?
Jeez. Chris is like, oh my God.
Fine.
After 5 minutes, I looked up and I could see a little girl with long black hair. She had really small eyes, but I could not see her mouth. She was wearing a white dress and had a very loosely tied ribbon around her neck. No one else could see her but me. I quickly looked away, told her goodbye in my head, and left the circle. Now, here comes the scary part. I still feel and see her to this day. I've always wondered if I didn't properly close the door, per se, correctly.
Yeah, that's probably likely.
She's not a nuisance. She does not seem angry, but I feel like I am trapped when she is around. I get high anxiety, start sweating, and get hot like I'm in a crowd. How can I tell her that though I appreciate her presence, she needs to move on? Stay spooky, Justine Hart.
So, isn't there a Japanese spirit like that, like the Oni or something like that?
Well, Oni is a blanket term for demon, but there absolutely are. The interesting thing is, again, it's possible that the girl was following you
before,
yeah, and the seance gave her permission to show herself. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times ghosts don't know the rules. A lot of times, there's a lot going on and we don't either. We don't know conditionally what happens, but we do have certain things that we kind of come to understand, that you can invite these things, that you can open the doors, that you can, make room in your life for this to happen. And a seance is a classic one, and a poorly done seance is rife with issues.
I was gonna actually mention something about that. Basically, she said she was younger and all of that. I wonder if, personally, if I was going to conduct a seance, I would not bring like a rosary or anything like that, because in my opinion, with me not being like a religious leader or super knowledgeable about that, you're basically taking that rosary, you're putting it at the end of the line, you're throwing it into the veil, right? And something is going to, I feel like it is more of a lure than anything that'll be defensive, because you have to know how to use it to be defensive across.
Generally, rosaries are great protection because they are basically talismans of faith, and if you know what you're doing. But if you're just if you grab a crucifix off the wall and try to use it, if your faith isn't there, if it's not a part of your faith or a structure of your faith, it's really not going to do much, because it is not the item, it is how you feel about the item. And at a certain age, you're kind of all over the place, unless you were raised like strictly religious and you know what's going on. And there are lots of bizarre rules to like seances that are very arbitrary, but they came about somehow. A little known belief in a seance is that you have to have equal number male-female representation. People believe that because if you lean it one way or the other, the spiritual energy can fill in the imbalance, and it can become an imbalanced, situation. There's a lot of beliefs that, in a seance, whoever initiates the seance is actually responsible for shutting it down. And if they do not shut it down, then the seance is ongoing. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't end. The person who opened the door has to be the one to close it. Whether that's true or not is anyone's guess.
Yeah.
Whether that's them's the rules. So yeah, I believe that you answered your own question. How do I tell this spirit this thing? Well, that's what you say. When you feel that oppressive sensation, when you know that the spirit is present, speak to it. Yeah. Speak directly to it, because it relies on you for its existence in this world, it sounds like. When a spirit is attached to you, it has to adhere to certain things for fear of losing its connection. Yeah. It's tethered to this world. And so you can make demands of the spirit because it doesn't want to lose its right and privilege to be here. And whatever it's experiencing, and again, we don't know. We don't know why ghosts hang out. We don't understand it. There's a lot of belief that, they have to get to the other side, or they're looking for the light, or those are good and solid observations that people have made over time, but they are still guesses, our best guess. And so it's possible that, this entity needs to learn something specific. Right. And has to experience something specific, and it's being given the opportunity by being tethered to you to gain the knowledge it needs. So when you make demands of the spirit, it should adhere, and if it doesn't adhere, then we're not talking about a formerly human spirit.
I have a really good idea for a TikTok. What are things you don't want to do in a seance?
That's a great, yes,
absolutely.
Drinking is probably high on the list. Don't do it drunk.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't personally bring religious objects if I didn't know how to use them.
Sure.
That would be my number one thing.
Yeah.
Although, on the flip side, if you do know what it is, or if you have a strong faith, having these items nearby certainly can. Mm-hmm. Give you extra strength in a spiritual situation, because it is a spiritual question.
Also, a part of me wonders if you ever read the story of what was it, the girl with the
with the ribbon around her neck, and green ribbon.
It was a green ribbon. Yeah. And a part of me thinks, like, because you were young, and like I know that story stuck with me a lot when I was a kid, and sometimes lower residual entities will manifest themselves in ways that they know you're going to recognize, because that was such a distinct look of that particular story. And so I don't know why, part of me feels like maybe it was almost like manifesting that image.
Was that in Scary Stories
I think it was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
To Tell in the Dark? And believe it or not, that is an adaptation of an old Appalachian, ghost story classic. The woman with the ribbon around her neck, who gets married, and
And so I just wonder if it's like a lower energy, not necessarily parasitic, but maybe type entity where it chose to pick that because it knew that you would recognize or acknowledge
small
that entity.
Eyes and no mouth also kind of reckons with an idea that it is forming itself, that it isn't a human using recognizable things,
right?
But at the same time, it might be very telling of what it needs to learn, know, and experience.
Very true. So lots of possibilities, but yes, if it is connected to you in that way, it sounds like it your permission to
absolutely.
be in your presence. So that is the case, and you definitely can tell it to get lost if you want it to. But thank you guys so much for sending in your ghost mail. Lots of night terrors this time.
Night terrors and spooky girls with long black hair.
Yes. So if you have any ghost stories or, experiences that you'd like to share with us, please send it to us on it's ghostmail at hauntedcitypodcast.com. And also for Q&A purposes, if you have any questions you'd like to ask us, you can utilize the Q&A button on our TikTok under Haunted City Podcast. But with that, thank you guys for listening to this episode. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.